Welcome back to the Flagstone Tro review series on the 48 Laws of Power.
Yes! Welcome back, everyone.
In this deep dive, we're going to be looking at Law 3, Conceal Your Intentions,
Right.
and how we can apply that specifically to the workplace.
Such a good one.
What are your thoughts on this one?
It's all about keeping people off balance.
Right.
Never letting them fully know
Yeah.
what you're really up to.
Like being unpredictable.
You want to be unpredictable, like a magician, using misdirection.
So instead of being like an open book, we should be more like, I don't know, like a locked safe. Nobody knows what's inside until we decide to open it.
Exactly.
Okay.
The less they know, the less they can counter you.
Right.
So if they don't know your true goals, your colleagues, your competitors, then they can't prepare a defense.
Okay.
They'll be playing checkers while you're playing chess.
That makes a lot of sense. But isn't there a risk of coming across as a little, I don't know, shady, like we're always scheming behind people's backs?
It's a fine line for sure.
Yeah.
This law isn't about being unethical, right? Or manipulative. It's about being strategic.
Okay.
And understanding that in a competitive environment like the workplace, information is power.
Yeah, that's true.
Think of it almost as self-defense in a way.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So how do we actually apply this conceal your intentions idea without, becoming some Machiavellian mastermind?
Well, one technique is to use what Robert Greene calls decoyed objects of desire.
Okay.
And red herrings.
Ooh, interesting.
It's about creating distractions, sending people down the wrong path so they don't see what you're really doing.
Okay, so misdirection. I like this. Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah. So Greene uses the story of Ninon de Lenclos. She's this 17th century French courtesan.
Oh, wow.
Who knew a thing or two about power dynamics. And she was advising this young man named Marquis de Sevigne on how to win the affections of a particular countess.
So this was a high-stakes game of romantic strategy.
Absolutely. High stakes, high reward. And Ninon laid out this multi-step plan for the Marquis, right? He was to feign friendship at first.
Okay.
Then subtly spark jealousy by appearing with other women. The key was to create this sense of mystery, unpredictability.
It's like the classic playing hard to get, I guess.
Yeah.
Did it work?
It was working beautifully until the Marquis got impatient. He just couldn't contain his feelings any longer.
No.
And he confessed his love to the Countess.
He blew his cover.
Exactly. Yeah. And by revealing his true intentions prematurely, he ruined the entire plan.
Wow.
Think about it. How many times have you seen someone at work spill the beans about a project before it's fully baked, only to have their ideas stolen or shot down?
Yeah, that happens all the time. People get excited. They want to share.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes it's better to hold back.
Precisely. Especially in a competitive environment.
Yeah.
Playing your cards close to your chest can be crucial.
That's a good point.
Now, another technique for concealing your intentions is the smokescreen.
Okay, smokescreen. Sounds a bit like something out of a spy movie.
Yeah, it does.
Tell me more.
So one of the most fascinating examples Greene uses is the story of Yellow Kid Weil.
Okay.
He's this notorious con artist, master of misdirection.
Wow.
So how did this yellow kid use a smokescreen?
How did he do it?
So he wanted to defraud this businessman, Sam Giesel.
Okay.
But he knew he couldn't just walk up to him and ask for his money, right?
Right.
So he set up this elaborate scheme that started with a seemingly legitimate business proposition.
Okay.
He expressed interest in buying Giesel's hunting lodge.
So he was playing the role of a harmless, potential buyer?
Exactly. But that was just the first layer of the smokescreen.
Okay, there's more.
To really distract Giesel, he brought in another element. A boxing match. He even introduced Giesel to the boxer, a man named Gross, supposedly a real contender.
I'm guessing there was more to this boxer than meets the eye.
You guessed it. Gross was in on the con.
Oh, wow.
The whole boxing match was staged, designed to keep Giesel's attention completely diverted.
Wow, so this is getting pretty elaborate. What was the point of all the theatrics?
Well, during the match, Yellow Kid made sure to create even more chaos, more distraction.
Oh, my gosh.
He rigged the fight to make Gross appear out of shape at first.
Right.
But then make the surprising comeback, and then get this, he had Gross fake his own death in the ring.
Wait, he faked a death. This is getting wilder by the minute.
It is. While Giesel was completely preoccupied with all this drama, Yellow Kid slipped away with his money. The smokescreen worked perfectly.
So it wasn't just about distracting Giesel, it was about manipulating his emotions, making him panic,
Right.
lose his focus. That's a pretty powerful technique.
Absolutely. And while we're not suggesting you fake anyone's death at work,
Right, of course not.
the principle of the smokescreen can be applied in much more subtle ways.
Okay, so how can we use this smokescreen idea in a more, I guess, everyday setting?
Think about how you manage perceptions at work. Could you create an aura of busyness? Maybe with a few decoy projects?
Yeah.
Tasks that seem important but are actually secondary to your true goals.
So it's like creating a diversion,
Yeah.
making people think that we're busy with this other thing while we're actually working on something much bigger behind the scenes.
Exactly. And that can be particularly helpful if you're working on something innovative or disruptive. You don't want to alert the naysayers or potential rivals until you're ready to unveil your masterpiece.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could be useful. So we've talked about decoyed objects of desire,
Mm-hmm.
smoke screens. What other techniques did Robert Greene highlight when it comes to concealing intentions?
He also discusses the power of blending and appearing less threatening than you actually are. He uses examples of spies during the Cold War who were able to operate undetected for years because they cultivated these incredibly ordinary personas.
So it's like the saying, hide in plain sight. If you don't want to attract attention, don't stand out.
Hmm.
Don't make yourself a target.
That's the idea. It's about playing the long game, biding your time, waiting for the right moment to reveal your true hand. Remember, sometimes the most powerful moves are the ones that nobody sees coming. Right.
Yeah.
That's good. Like, think of someone like Haile Selassie, who became emperor of Ethiopia.
Right.
He wasn't a physically imposing figure,
Right.
but incredibly strategic.
Yeah.
And he understood that appearances can be deceiving.
Right.
Right.
And he actually used that to his advantage when he was trying to consolidate his power, right? I remember Greene talks about Selassie's conflict with his powerful warlord, Balcha.
Yes,
You know
Balcha.
that-
Exactly. Balcha was this formidable opponent, but Selassie was able to outmaneuver him by using this brilliant smokescreen. He knew that Balcha was paranoid, suspicious,
Right.
so he invites him to this banquet, right? And allows Balcha to even bring his personal bodyguard.
But on the surface, it's just a gesture of hospitality.
Yeah.
But I'm betting there was a lot more going on beneath the surface.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
While Selassie was hosting this lavish banquet, appearing all friendly and non-threatening,
Right.
he was secretly orchestrating the disarming of Balcha's entire army.
Wow.
He had his men go out and buy up all their weapons.
Wow. Talk about a power move.
I know.
So by the time Balcha realizes what's happening,
Yeah.
he's completely vulnerable.
Totally vulnerable. Selassie understood that sometimes the best way to win is to make your opponent think they're in control, right?
Right.
Right up until the moment you pull the rug out from under them.
Yeah, that's a good point. So he used this smoke screen of like hospitality and diplomacy
Yeah.
to conceal his true intentions, which was to neutralize this powerful rival.
That's right.
That's an incredible example of this law in action.
It is.
Yeah.
And Greene offers a few other examples of this type of strategic deception in a variety of contexts.
Okay.
For instance, he talks about Joseph Duveen,
Okay.
this art dealer,
Okay.
who used philanthropy as a smokescreen.
Okay.
He donated lavishly to museums and galleries,
Right.
but his real motive was to manipulate the art market
Right.
and increase the value of his own holdings.
So it was a clever way to boost his own profits under the guise of generosity.
Exactly. And then there's the story of Jay Gould, the notorious robber baron.
Oh, yeah.
He repeatedly sold his companies to Western Union,
Oh,
creating this pattern
yeah.
that made them think they knew his game,
Right.
but really he was playing a much deeper game.
Right. Right.
He used that pattern to lull them into this false sense of security, right? Until he was finally in a position to just take over the entire company.
It's fascinating how all of these examples, though, from very different fields, all demonstrate the same principle.
They do. It all comes back to that idea of misdirection,
Right.
of using distraction and deception to gain the upper hand.
So you've given us some pretty compelling historical examples, but how can we, the average person in the workplace actually start applying these principles? It feels a little intimidating, to be honest.
It doesn't have to be.
Okay.
Start by thinking about the image you project at work.
Okay.
Do you come across as harmless? Predictable?
You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
And it struck me as a little counterintuitive because we're often told, especially if you want to get ahead in your career,
Right.
to be assertive, to make your presence known.
Right.
But you're saying sometimes it's better to kind of fly under the radar?
That's true, but remember, this law is about picking your battles, right?
Right.
Sometimes the best way to win is to fly under the radar, to blend in with the background noise so people underestimate you.
So being a wallflower can actually be a strategic advantage.
Precisely. If you appear non-threatening,
Yeah.
people are less likely to see you as a competitor.
Right.
They'll let their guard down,
Right.
which gives you an opportunity to observe,
Right.
strategize, and make your move when the time is right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But isn't there a risk of being overlooked if we're constantly trying to blend in?
That's where the art of subtlety comes in.
Okay.
It's not about becoming invisible.
Right.
It's about managing perceptions.
Okay.
Think of it as a game of chess.
Mm-hmm.
You don't reveal your strategy by making loud,
Right.
aggressive moves.
Right.
You plan carefully,
Right.
you anticipate your opponent's reactions,
Uh-huh.
and then you strike when they least expect it.
So it's about being deliberate
Yeah,
and strategic with every move we make.
exactly. And remember, this law isn't just about concealing your intentions from others.
Right.
It's also about learning to read the intentions of those around you.
That sounds like a whole other level of complexity.
I know, right?
How do we even begin to, decipher what other people are really thinking?
Yeah,
Especially if they're also trying to conceal their intentions.
that's a great question.
Yeah.
Well, that's where observation and analysis come into play, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about paying attention to subtle cues, body language, tone of voice, patterns of behavior.
It sounds like we need to become master detectives in our own workplaces.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
But remember, this isn't about being paranoid or suspicious of everyone.
Right.
It's about developing this heightened awareness
Okay.
of the social dynamics at play.
So being observant can help us avoid being caught off guard or manipulated by others.
Exactly. And it can also help you identify opportunities that others might miss.
Right.
Remember, in a game of power,
Yeah.
knowledge is key.
Knowledge is power.
The more you understand about the motivations and intentions of those around you,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be to navigate the complexities of the workplace.
This has been incredibly insightful, but I think it's time to shift gears a bit.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the strategies and techniques of concealing intentions, but what about the ethical implications?
Sure.
Some people might argue that this law promotes a culture of mistrust and deception.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that this law is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
Right.
The key is to use it ethically and responsibly.
So how do we strike that balance? How do we apply these principles without compromising our own values?
It comes down to self-awareness
Okay.
and integrity.
Hmm.
Ask yourself, what are your goals? Are you using this law to manipulate others for personal gain?
Right.
Or are you using it to protect yourself, to advance a worthy cause, to navigate a challenging situation?
So it's not about being deceptive for the sake of being deceptive.
Mhm.
It's about being strategic
Yes.
and using our knowledge of human nature to achieve our goals in a way that aligns with our own moral compass.
Exactly. And remember, this law isn't a license to lie or cheat, right?
Right.
It's about understanding that in the real world, not everyone plays by the rules.
That's true.
Sometimes you need to be able to protect yourself and your interests.
It's about being savvy, not shady.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And one more thing to keep in mind.
Okay.
Timing is everything.
You're talking about that Marquis
Yeah.
who ruined his chances with the Countess by revealing his feelings too soon.
Exactly. There's a time to hold back
Right.
and a time to reveal your hand.
Right.
Knowing when to do each is crucial.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. You might be working on this amazing project, something truly innovative,
Mm-hmm.
but if you reveal your plans too early, you risk giving your competitors a head start,
Oh, yeah.
right? They might try to copy your idea or discredit it before you even have a chance to launch it.
So in a way, concealing your intentions is about protecting your work,
Yeah.
your ideas, your vision.
Exactly. It's about waiting for the right moment to strike, to make your move when you're in the strongest possible position.
So patience and timing are just as important as strategy and deception.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of surprise.
Mm.
When people don't see you coming, when they don't know what you're capable of, that's when you have the greatest advantage.
This all makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people might struggle with this idea of concealing their intentions.
Mm-hmm.
It goes against, what what we're often taught,
Yeah.
about being authentic and transparent,
I get it.
especially in a professional setting.
It can feel very counterintuitive.
Right.
But remember, this law isn't about being dishonest
Right.
or manipulative.
Right.
It's about being strategic
Yeah.
and understanding the nuances of power.
Right.
It's about choosing your battles carefully and knowing when to reveal your hand.
And sometimes it's about playing the long game, right? Like Selassie did with Bolcha.
Exactly. Selassie didn't reveal his true intentions until he was in a position of absolute power. He waited for the right moment to strike, and when he did, he was completely unstoppable. He understood that sometimes you need to play the role of the underdog,
Right.
the non-threatening one,
Right.
until the opportunity arises to seize control.
So mastering this law is about reading the situation, understanding the players,
Yes,
and then making calculated moves.
precisely. It's about being a student of human nature,
Mm-hmm.
a master of strategy,
Yeah.
and a bit of a, well, let's just say a shrewd observer of the game of power.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for our listeners? How can they apply this law of power in their own professional lives?
So the key takeaway here is to be mindful of the signals you're sending.
Okay.
Think about your own workplace.
Hmm.
Are there projects you're working on that you want to keep under wraps for now?
Right. Are there colleagues who might be trying to undermine your efforts?
Exactly. Ask yourself, are you revealing too much too soon? Could you benefit from creating a smokescreen, a decoy project to distract from your true goals?
Right.
Could a little bit of strategic silence and misdirection actually help you gain the upper hand?
That's a good point.
Yeah. Remember, it's not about being deceptive for the sake of being deceptive.
Right.
It's about being smart, strategic, and ultimately successful.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the how of concealing intentions,
Mm-hmm.
the strategies, the techniques.
Right.
But what about the why?
Yeah.
Why is this law so important,
Okay.
especially in the context of the workplace?
Well, think about the nature of competition.
Hmm.
In any field, there are going to be people who are vying for the same opportunities, the same resources, the same recognition.
Right.
And in that kind of environment, it's naive to think that everyone is going to play fair.
So this law is about protecting ourselves from those who might try to take advantage of us.
Exactly. It's about understanding that sometimes you need to be strategic, even a little bit guarded, in order to survive and thrive.
Right.
It's not about being cynical or distrustful.
Right.
It's about being realistic.
So it's a form of self-preservation in a way.
Precisely. And sometimes concealing your intentions isn't about gaining an advantage over others.
Mm-hmm.
It's about protecting yourself.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Let's say you have this brilliant idea for a new project, but you're not quite ready to share it with everyone.
Right.
If you reveal your intentions too early,
Yeah.
you risk someone stealing your idea
Right.
or discrediting it before you had a chance to fully develop it.
So in that sense, concealing your intentions is a way of safeguarding your own work and protecting your own interests.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about being prudent and strategic,
Right.
especially in a competitive environment. It's about being prudent and strategic, especially in a competitive environment.
It sounds like mastering Law 3 is really about finding that balance between being authentic and being strategic, knowing when to hold back and when to reveal our true selves and our true goals.
You hit the nail on the head. It's a delicate dance.
Yeah.
But it's a dance worth learning,
Yeah.
especially in a world as complex and competitive as the modern workplace.
So for our listeners who are ready to step onto the dance floor, so to speak, what's the best way to start applying Law 3 to their own careers?
I'd say the first step is to become more aware of the signals you're sending.
Okay.
Think about how you're perceived by your colleagues and superiors.
Mm-hmm.
Do you come across as someone who's easily manipulated? Or do you project an aura of confidence and self-assurance?
You're saying that even our body language and tone of voice can reveal our intentions.
Absolutely. Remember, we're constantly communicating whether we realize it or not.
Yeah.
And people are always picking up on those subtle cues,
Right.
even if they're not consciously aware of it.
So we need to be mindful of our nonverbal communication as well as our words.
Exactly. Pay attention to how you carry yourself, how you make eye contact, how you respond to questions and challenges.
Right.
These seemingly small things can make a big difference in how people perceive you.
Okay, so we need to project confidence. Be mindful of our nonverbal cues.
Yes.
What else?
Next, think about your goals.
Mm-hmm.
What are you trying to achieve in your career?
Okay.
Once you have a clear sense of your objectives, You can start to strategize about how to conceal your intentions in a way that will help you achieve those goals.
So it's not about being deceptive just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
It's about having a clear purpose and then using this law as a tool to help us get where we want to go.
Precisely. And that might involve using some of the techniques we've discussed. Decoyed objects of desire, smoke screens blending in, and so on.
Yeah.
The key is to choose the strategies that will be most effective in your particular situation.
And to use them ethically, of course.
Of course, it goes without saying that this law should never be used to harm others or to gain an unfair advantage.
Right.
It's about leveling the playing field and giving yourself the best chance of success.
So it's about playing the game smartly and strategically, not about being a cutthroat manipulator.
Exactly. And remember, one of the most important aspects of this law is timing. Knowing when to reveal your intentions is just as crucial as knowing when to conceal them.
Like we talked about with the Marquis and the Countess.
Exactly.
If he had waited just a bit longer, he might have won her over, but his impatience ruined everything.
Right. Think of it like a poker game.
Okay.
You don't want to show your hand too early.
Right.
You need to wait for the right moment to make your move.
So patience is a virtue, especially when it comes to Law 3.
Absolutely. And remember, concealing your intentions isn't just about keeping your cards close to your chest. It's also about learning to read the intentions of others.
So we need to become keen observers of human behavior.
Exactly. Pay attention to the people around you.
Okay.
What are their motivations?
Yeah.
What are their goals? The more you understand about the people you're dealing with, the better you'll be able to anticipate their actions and reactions.
So it's like becoming a student of human nature.
Precisely. And the workplace is the perfect laboratory for this kind of study.
Oh, yeah.
You're constantly interacting with people from different backgrounds, with different personalities and different agendas.
That's true.
It's a fascinating social experiment.
And Law 3 gives us a framework for understanding those interactions and navigating them in a way that benefits us.
Exactly. It's about using your knowledge of human psychology to create win-win situations, to build strong relationships, and to achieve your goals in a way that is both ethical and effective.
This has been a truly insightful deep dive into Law 3 of the 48 Laws of Power.
Yes, it has.
I think our listeners will come away with a much deeper understanding of how to apply this law to their own lives and careers.
I hope so.
And that's it for today's Flagstone Trail discussion. We appreciate your listenership.